No, they're just going to get done.
Recording in progress.
And Andrew.
Responsibility, but I said, no, it's probably my responsibility to check on them, but I didn't know they were gonna be.
No, it's not your responsibility.
There's again.
Well, if we lose the internet, don't we lose quorum?
It's potential. It was really windy.
I'll be lucky to keep it too. It's really windy out here in Lund.
Yeah. Okay. I'm getting the Jerry's are canceled or no?
I would assume at this point.
Here's Director Powell.
Yes, they are.
Okay, Chair, you can start the meeting at any point in time.
All right. Welcome everyone. This is the qathet Regional Hospital District meeting for March 24th, 2026. Recognizing that we're holding the meeting on the unceded traditional territory next to Jumich, which is the Wellington Beach. Beautiful flat land is what that means. Today we are looking at, we have the agenda in front of everybody. Corporate officer, is there any changes to the agenda?
I have not been advised of any changes, Chair.
Okay. Do we have a motion to
Adopt approval of the agenda?
Second. All right. All in favor? Everyone carried. Any opposed? Don't see any. Motion carries. We have the adoption of minutes from the January 27th, 2026 meeting. Everybody had a chance to review those. Are there any errors or omissions to the minutes?
Move adoption. Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. All right, moving along. We are down, no delegations or inquiries. Unfinished business, down to correspondence. Correspondence have been attached. You want to turn this over to you?
We would just want to know if anybody has any business arising.
Oh, okay. Is there any business arising out of the correspondence? Moving along. Cares report. Oh wow. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I don't mean to alarm everyone. This is my first chair's report. So we had the Vancouver Coastal Health Working Group meeting that was attended by the corporate officer and Director McCormick. Director Elliott sent her regrets, and I think we'll be moving forward with Director Elliott as the vice chair for those meetings. There was some of the items are confidential. Yes. So we'll have to discuss those in camera. I think we'll bring that up there. That was the report there, so we'll tackle that later on. Can everybody online hear me? Sorry, I didn't do a sound check. Yeah, yep. Thank you. Good. Resolutions? There is none. Reports. I believe we are looking at the fourth quarter Regional Hospital District 2025 Strategic Plan Progress Report.
I'll move the motion in the agenda.
Second.
Andy, second.
All in favor?
Oh, I had something to say. But,
oh, sorry. Yeah. Go for it.
That's quick. I just wanted to thank staff for bringing, being able to pull out the hospital district. I know we've talked a bit about that before, but I think it's really useful for us and for the public to see, hospital district items in the hospital district agenda. So I really want to express appreciation. I think it's great. And this is a nice way we can move forward. Thank you.
Comments? All in favor? Is there any opposed? Seeing none. I believe that's carried. Moving on to 10.2, 2026 to 2030 Regional Hospital District Financial Plan Draft 2. And we have The first motion on here is that the board of the qathet Regional Hospital District accept as draft 2 and as guide and as guiding information, the 2026-2030 financial plan schedule for the qathet Regional Hospital District as presented at the March 24th, 2026 board meeting.
So moved.
Director McCormick moves. We have a seconder. Director Gisborne, all in favor? Discussion, I'm sorry.
Perhaps we should ask Ms. Greenan if she has any additional information to share.
Yes, please. Ms. Greenan, is there any additional information to share?
Thank you, through the chair. No, I just wanted to mention that this financial plan incorporates the direction from the board, and there are a few minor changes, but nothing substantial from draft 1.
Discussion. Oh, Director Lennox, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's probably from Ms. Greenan. Just looking at page 13 of 14, I think I know what I'm looking at, but I see yellow, green, and red. And anytime I see red there in our 26 to 25 budget there, the variance. So I just maybe we could get an explanation as to the red and the greens in the variance columns.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair. Yes, so all that is, it's just a coding in Excel just to whenever there's a large decrease or a large increase, then it codes it red if it's a large decrease, and then green if it's a large increase.
Okay.
So that's all it's doing. It's just highlighting where the larger increases or decreases are.
Thank you. I thought so. Appreciate it.
Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. I'm gonna build off of page 13 of 14. I think you look at the requisition. Sorry, the requisition for the regional was 3.9 million in 2025, and we're looking at 3.1 million for 2026. And the reason I bring this up is, in our strategic plan progress report, one of the issues that came up was what are the needs of our community in terms of healthcare, and a lot that we haven't heard back yet from Vancouver Coastal Health. And I know the provincial budget is a little tight in the belt, and I'm thinking about the long-term needs of this community, and I'm wondering about long-term care facilities. I know this is a bit early to try and pass a motion about long-term care, but I'm wondering if maybe we should actually increase the requisition to strengthen our reserves, because we're seeing very high costs for these long-term care facilities. And I know this is kind of the 11th hour, but I'm just kind of wondering about the appetite around the table to actually maybe increase our requisition to be more in alignment with maybe last year's requisition, because we're seeing a decrease of about $812,000. The screen.
Sorry.
Through the chair, I apologize. That is the wrong. The 2025 actuals on there are not correct, because it's actually a 2.2% increase. So we do have a requisition increase overall of 2.2%, but I'm not sure. I'm sorry, that schedule seems to be incorrect. I do have the correct one, and I could put that up on the screen right now.
Please.
So it was.
I will see if everybody can see it.
Okay, I'll share my screen. So this is what the actual year to date in 20. Can everyone see my screen?
You can zoom.
Yeah, zoom in on this.
Okay. So here it is. It's actually the requisition in 2025 was actually 3.07 million. And so it's gone up to 3.1 million. So it's an increase of 66,935 and an increase of $1,187 per Tla'amin Nation. So yeah, and we do have a contribution to the reserve of $1.8 million. Yeah, so 1.817349 is the contribution to reserve.
The Director Lennox has a question, I believe. His hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. That's why I was a bit confused. I'm glad we went over this because something didn't add up to me. I just want to clarify under revenue on that same page that because it's really hard for me to see the presentation there. Proceeds from reserve, so we're 1,016,298. Is that still correct?
Okay, so
Yes.
that is, yes, so this compares the budget from 2025 to the budget for 2026. And so it's a $1.016 million increase. And the reason for that is that in 2025, we didn't have, we thought there was only going to be 16,000 left of the cost share to pay out. And then we approved a subsequent cost share during the year. So this basically, the transfer from reserve actually funds the cost share request to Vancouver Coastal Health that's shown down here. And that includes the balance of the 2023 to 2024 cost share, and then the new $800,000 cost share that was approved for the X-ray room, as well as the $50,000 potential grant to the Foundry.
Thank you. And maybe just a quick follow-up, Chair. I guess this is maybe same points Director Gisborne was making. Like my question is, are our reserves still healthy? You know, do we have to, you know, since we keep dipping into these for capital shares, I remain concerned about that method. And I'd appreciate, you know, maybe as we look ahead that we do consider, you know, because all of our reserves, we've been talking about a policy in that. I think this applies as well. So I appreciate the clarity on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Gisborne?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fund Green, and that really helps. You know, that helps me with the next question I was going to ask. That clarifies those numbers. So we're looking at a 2% increase year over year in this budget, and I'm still thinking about the long-term needs because we do keep getting these cost share requests, and every year it kind of changes based on what VCH wants. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if there's any appetite to maybe go from a 2% increase to like a 4% increase, because I think 3% is CPI and I think 3% is keeping it level. I think 4% would, I'd be a little more happy with 4%. Maybe we can get some more leveraging with the province if they ever do get any money again. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering what's the appetite around the table, and if that's a motion that the corporate officer would find in order. To go the requisition from a 2% increase to a 4% increase.
Thank you. It may be better suited at financial plan. Are we thinking that? Like, are we thinking about changing? We don't want to change draft 2 because we're at the deadline date. So would that be better considered at 11.1?
When we go to actually adopt the bylaw.
Because you're considering changes. Is that correct?
Yeah. To increase the requisition from a 2% requisition increase to a 4% requisition increase. And I'm just wondering about you know, our chief financial officer, because I think getting that kind of ahead of us right now before, of course, we get to the end of the meeting and then throw something else forward.
Mm-hmm. So that would be in Schedule A.
Yeah. But also if the assembly isn't interested, then I don't want to make our CFO do a bunch of work. Well, Rob, I mean, Director Zuckoff.
My apologies.
We're at 10.2 right now on the agenda.
Oh, excellent. I was hoping it was going to be all done.
Thank you. So if that's a change that you're desiring to make, it probably is better at the financial plan. I'm fairly certain, unless the CAO can tell me why that wouldn't be the case.
Then I will keep my powder dry until we get to that item, which is 11.1.
A question. 10.2, item number 3 says that the financial schedule as presented at this meeting would then go to this meeting later. And so if we want, so I'm just checking whether if we're not forwarding it as presented, if there is an appetite to forward it in a different way.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
through the chair. Regardless of the direction to forward a bylaw, the assembly will retain the right to amend it at that point in time.
Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify what we're talking about here, and there'll be a question through the chair to our financial manager, if just to clarify my understanding. So the reserves right now at the end of 2025 are 6.3 million about. The transfers to reserves shown in the information just presented on our screens in this budget is around 1.9 million going into the Section 20 reserve, and then another 291,000 into the Section 20 reserve. So my question is going to be is this correct? And the third part of the question is the item that will come up after 10.2.1 is about the surplus. And so maybe since we're talking about reserves and transfers to reserves, how much is the surplus from 2025?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. It's $7,079. So
okay, no, chump change.
And if I could, through the chair, please, I just wanted to mention the so the 1.9 million that you see, that includes the interest. So the actual reserve contribution is they're shown, as 1.817 million to the Section 20 reserve and 232,714 to the maintenance reserve.
Okay, so 1.817 million and then plus 232, that's what we're putting from tax requisitions plus the interest on that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. It's actually 240,000 going into the maintenance reserve. This is the spreadsheet that I'm showing you isn't it's not, it doesn't do it's not doing the correct reserve calculation. So it's actually 240,000 into the maintenance reserve plus interest.
And just as a follow-up, could I clarify on what that would mean for our I'm just trying to understand because there's the ins and outs of what we have to give to VCH. So our reserves at the end of 2025 are around 6.3, and then 2026 would be 6.9. Is that after? I'm just trying to understand
Yes.
whether
So
after,
the
or when in the year
reserves, so the reserves are estimated at 6.7 million at the end of 2026 for the Section 20, and that includes the spending, the commitments to the hospice and the potential spending to the foundry. And then the maintenance reserve is estimated at $3.3 million.
Great, thank you.
No more discussion. Call the question. That the board of the qathet Regional Hospital District accept as draft 2 as the guiding information, the 2026 to 2030 financial plan scheduled for the qathet Regional Hospital District as presented at the March 24th, 2026 meeting. And that the board of the qathet Regional Hospital District direct that any 2025 surplus be allocated to the Section 20 reserve. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Then on to number 3.
So moved.
Okay. Second. All in favor?
Any discussion?
Discussion.
That would be efficiency.
Shell shock from the first meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. On to 10.3, procedural bylaw update. That the Regional Hospital District Board refer and recommend Board Procedure Amendment Bylaw number 557.3, 2026 to the qathet Regional Hospital Board for first reading through adoption. Discussion.
make the motion.
Or go ahead, Director Fall, seconded.
Okay. All in favor?
On the discussion.
Discussion. Wow, sorry. Director Fall, I see your hand up.
Yes, I had two questions. One, maybe I'll start with the minor one, and these are probably for the corporate officer. I understand part of this would be to update the numbering, but I noticed something that might have been a typo from a previous version of this because I looked back and tried to figure this out. So in or current 4.21 makes reference to section 4.13, and I think that should be 4.14. And so it's not a big deal. It's just when the renumbering happens, I don't think there needs to be a motion or anything, but just to confirm. And I look back to see because it talks about the report, and the report from the delegate is 4.14, and it's yeah, I just noticed that there was an additional section added in a previous iteration of this. And anyways, and the main question is, I understand all the changes. I totally think they make sense. The removing the section on, there's a removal of a section referring to transfer of authority if the chair and the vice chair are both not available. And in the past, that would have just gone to the next director on the list. So that comes out because we have a fixed vice chair, which makes sense. But the question I have in general is what would the procedure be if that event happened, both the chair and the vice chair are unavailable, then there's nothing in our procedure bylaw to say what happens. And I'm just curious to know if there's a default action that would happen there.
Thank you through the chair. I believe it's covered under the Emergency Act. I should have included that language here, but there is language that we would follow for that.
Is it not under, the new 1.23? If both the chair and the designated vice chair are absent from the meeting, members must choose a director to preside?
No, so this is in relation to declaration of, and so that's covered in legislation. And so we would follow legislation. We don't need to have a separate procedure in our procedure bylaw.
Okay, that's great. I just wanted to check just because it makes sense given the other changes, but I think that's all clear. Thank you.
Director Lennox.
Yeah, sorry, I came off mute there earlier and probably confused you. Yeah, I appreciate some of these changes, having the vice chair, getting through all that. I guess as I read these and we consider more and more bylaws, procedures, they can become restrictive and they can sort of hamper the open dialogue. So I think it's just more of a statement I'd like to make. I'm prepared to vote for it because, I understand we need some procedures, but I hope this board will maintain their sense of openness to allow people to not be so hampered by 5 minutes and 2 opportunities and you're done sort of attitude. And because as we debate, you directors actually give me new thoughts and new ideas and new considerations that become very pertinent to the discussion. And if we can't speak up and voice ourselves, well, then it becomes sort of adversarial and we start getting into the weeds. So I just we have been able to maintain over time that ability to say, actually, I'd like to speak again, and we respect each other. So I guess I'm just asking for us to consider that, because the more we put rules in the place, we sort of pigeonhole ourselves. Thank you.
Good one.
Thank you, Chair. I think I'm picking up on what's coming around the table. Proposed policy 4.59, a member may speak for no more than 5 minutes on any one occasion on a question, and no more than 2 occasions on the same question, and no more than 10 minutes in total on the same question, except by leave of the board. And this is a policy I have a bit of an issue with, and kind of comes from some of the experience around this table over the last 7 years. And one of the challenges that came up was I would often hear, okay, you only get 2 opportunities to speak and that's it. And I would constantly fire back, that's not in the procedure bylaw. Well, now it looks like we are putting it in the procedure bylaw. And the reason I have an issue with that is it says you can only speak to the item twice. Each time you can only speak 5 minutes. So maybe you have something to say that's going to take 7 minutes, but you don't want to say anything else. So you kind of break it up into 2 sections. I would be happy with, if we struck out like the middle clause. So it would say a member may speak for no more than 10 minutes in total on the same question. So whether you speak once or twice or 3 times shouldn't really matter. It's, are you using up more than 10 minutes? I think would actually be a far more efficient use of our time. And I think we've had a lot of great restraint around the table when it comes to how many times we speak to an issue, how long we speak to an issue. And most of the issues that we deal with, they're fairly benign, they're fairly straightforward. And keep in mind that this bylaw does not just impact the Regional Hospital District Board. It also impacts all of the committees at the regional district. And just to go down a little rabbit hole, just a small one, when it comes to things like planning and land use regulation and zoning bylaws, I know I could go on for hours about it, but there's a lot of details in, bylaw changes. And we might be talking about, minimum parcel size or the actual use of industrial or all those kind of things. And it really needs to kind of go around the table and gestate. And when I see this policy of 5.59 saying you can only speak twice to any issue, well, with except by leave of the board, you kind of go, well, if the board's okay with it, then you can speak more. That doesn't alleviate my concerns. So I'm not sure if the best way forward is to propose an amendment. Yeah, I'll propose an amendment that we change 4.59 to strike out after the first no more, all the way up to the end of the second no more.
Thank you. So if I may, in the procedure bylaw, we would be amending clause 2.1.11.
4.59.
Yes, so sorry, in the amending procedure bylaw, the clause we're referring to there.
Yeah, it's 5.57 is crossed out and 5.59 is written, and then it's proposed bylaw 557.3. So essentially it would read, a member may speak for no more than 10 minutes in total on the same question, except by leave of the board.
I'll second that.
Okay. Very good one.
Thank you. I'll be quick because I think I've already exhausted a lot of time already. I like this amendment because that means that, whether you speak once, 2 or 3 times, sometimes it's just a question that someone asks, and that might be considered, oh, that was 1 chance to speak, even if it only took 30 seconds. I think this amendment actually makes it really simple and clean. It just says you have a total of 10 minutes to speak on any item. And if any directors start to kind of stray from this, a little sand timer can actually help. Every time you turn it up right, it starts to go. So I think this will kind of allow us to continue the good work around the table where we are able to share the whole picture. So, thanks, sir.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I find that I'm generally in favor of, as much as possible, having more natural discussions around a table, because we often do hear from one person, it sparks something else, it raises a question or a new opinion. I think it's really important to set constraints for a discussion. I think 10 minutes actually is quite generous. If someone has had a total, I think even less than that would be, could even make sense, but on really important matters that require really robust understanding, maybe 10 minutes is where it's at. I think the trickiness lies in like, how do you mentioned the egg timer. I don't, even with the existing bylaw, what are the practices? I know at the council table, a lot of times it's just based on like an estimate. If you know someone's gone over, then that's when you start to interfere as chair or intervene as chair. It's tricky. And it's rarer to have to police this, but I think the 10, I think I would support this motion. I think it would be important for the chair to still be able to intervene if the person's going off topic, if the discussions that they're having are no longer relevant to the debate, they're talking about something else. This doesn't stop the chair from intervening in those situations, but I think, you know, and this is a time where I may hear from other people who disagree and I might change my mind, but like my first sense is that this allows for a little bit more natural discussion and evolution of opinions as a conversation goes on. So at this point, I'm considering supporting this amendment to the bylaw.
Director Southcott, and then see Director McCormick next.
Thank you, Chair. One of the saddest things I think I've ever seen around this kind of table is procedure battles. Really want to not do that. Particularly because the regional hospital district does not have a committee of the whole. I think it behooves us to leave some room for flexibility so that we can work on issues around the table, because as Director Isaacson mentioned, when we start talking about things, often my experience is it stimulates more thinking and new ideas. And one of the imperatives of this kind of job is that we turn up with an open mind and with an ability to be influenced by each other. So I do support this as well. I also believe that even though this can be in procedure, if necessary, this can be varied with our consent. So that's what I really love, is how we can actually work together. And I think this does take us in that direction. So I'm going to support the amendment.
So Director McCormick, have your hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I also support this. I think having more and freer dialogue is a good thing. So I can't see any reason to not support it. But I do have a question as well. And that is that when I was first elected 12 years ago, there was a committee of the whole at the regional hospital district. And Colin Palmer chaired it, as well as chairing the board at that time. And so my question to staff is, what happened to committee of the whole? Where did it go?
Thank you, through the chair. I think what occurred is that the committee as a whole wasn't meeting, and we found that a significant number of, I think, years went by. We needed to adopt minutes that were quite a few years old, and it was not, that's what happened, is that it wasn't meeting, and so it just wasn't meeting, and we switched to doing the business at the board table.
Yep, Director McCormick.
So, yeah, just follow up. So then it wasn't like abolished or anything. So it could be resurrected if we wanted to start committee of the whole meetings at the hospital to support. That would be possible? Question?
Sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Director Powell.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple questions. So first, as confirmation of my understanding, because I believe what we're doing is voting to amend the amendment bylaw, which is on page 5 of 34 of our package. So the motion on the table is actually to amend item 2.1.11, which actually refers to changing that section of the actual procedure bylaw. So we're not voting here to amend the procedure bylaw. We're voting to amend the amendment bylaw that has that section 2.1.11, which actually enacts that change. Is that so first I guess I'll ask that question through the chair, if that's just to be clear what we're doing here.
Yes, that was what I was clarifying at the beginning there.
Oh, thank you very much. The second is, so I mean, 2 times, if there's a limit of, there's sort of, I guess, on one hand, I support some controls on length, but if you have 10 minutes, doesn't matter whether it's 2 minutes and 8 minutes or 6 minutes and 4 minutes. 2 times 5 minutes would be one way to achieve. If we said we have a limit of twice and 5 minutes each, a maximum of 5 minutes each, or 10 minutes in total. So the first one, having a limit of 2 times speaking with 5 minutes for each, I should say, that would actually be easier to maintain, allowing 10 minutes in total cumulative. I mean, I wouldn't want to see people speak 10 times for 1 minute, but anyways, I guess my question is, through the chair, is that going to be hard to manage for staff? Like, because if I've spoken for 7 minutes and someone else has spoken for 3, and there's 7 or 8 of us here, is that not is that difficult for staff? And I guess I'll get the answer to the question first.
We haven't considered or contemplated how, but it's our responsibility to follow the orders of the board. So if that's the desire, then we would determine a system to allow you to follow your rules.
Okay, thank you. So if I would suggest that if we do this, if it becomes onerous for staff, and I look forward, I would open for staff to come to us and say, this is really difficult for us. It's taking, this person who has to track this little chart of 8 columns, that if that's difficult, that we consider, that there would be consideration for instead having limits on the number of time. If you said alternatively you can speak twice and 5 minutes per time, then that would be the same effect. And the last thing I'd like to point out, because I think there's been a couple comments to suggest this is just for the hospital district, and this is just to confirm. The motion would be to make these changes and send it to the regional board. The hospital district follows the procedure bylaw of the board, so the board would see this and adopt it. So that would be another step. But then this would apply equally to the board, the committee of the whole, finance committee, and such committees, in addition to the hospital district. So I guess I'll confirm that through the chair, but otherwise I'll stop speaking.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, so this applies to all committees and commissions and meetings of the board. The procedure bylaw and the hospital board. So now on the amendment, the amending bylaw, just call it. I think you might be ready to call the question.
I think so. We'll call the question for the amendment to
2.1.11, Chair.
2.1.11. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Carried. Is there any additional discussion for that, Director Gisborne?
Yeah, I have one question, and it was something that came up when I read on page 10 or 15 or 34, proposed bylaw or proposed policy 3.7. The notice of meeting must specify the physical location at which the meeting is deemed to be held, and the facilities at that location must enable members of the public to hear or watch and hear the meeting. A regional district officer must be in attendance at that specified place. I'm fine with all the first section, but the last one, you always try and think of what are the parameters? What are how can things go sideways? And I think back to the pandemic when, a lot of us had to be socially distancing and folks working electronically. And it says a regional district officer must be in attendance at that specified place. And I read that as, okay, that means that wherever we have our meeting, we have to have an officer at that meeting. And 99% of the time, I think that's fine. That's what happens. It's normal. But there might be some instances where, our officers are ill or out of town on business, and there might be like a virtual option for attendance. And then the other question I kind of have, or the thing I'm thinking about, is sometimes there's in-camera discussions where there are no staff present. Would this policy mean that we could not actually have those discussions without any staff present? Do they have to be in the room in order for us to even have our meeting?
Thank you. in two parts. Your point that you raised is very good because the regulations apply to certain meetings. So I think if we're referring this to the board for consideration, we should also ask staff to investigate that and provide, hopefully that's not us.
That's powerful, Green.
So I think we'll just do additional investigation on that clause. Through corporate officer groups and forums, having the language specified in the procedure bylaw for electronic meetings is required. With regards to in-camera meetings, I think perhaps that discussion should happen in camera.
Okay, in that case, I would move, well, unless there's any other amendments, I'd move that the rest of this discussion be handled in camera.
So thank you, referring that discussion to the in-camera session today.
Yeah. Let's break while the iron's hot. Well, unless anyone else is looking to do amendments or.
Are there any other discussion?
Okay, well, then now I'll move to send it in camera.
Okay.
Seconder though.
Seconder for moving on.
Question through the chair. Are we talking about the entire discussion about the procedure bylaw amendment bylaw or procedure bylaw amendment bylaw, or just the discussion on that item?
Just thank you through the chair. My understanding was just the discussion on in-camera meetings and staff attendance.
Yeah. That's my thoughts. And if there's a seconder.
Yeah. Isaacson. Okay, yeah. All in favor?
Oh, I have a question. Through Chair. I just want to be clear to know what we're doing, because we have on the table a motion to recommend that this procedure bylaw be referred to the board. So so the question is, and I want to, like, I guess I don't really know exactly, are we sending this in camera, and then the idea would be that we can come out of in camera of this meeting and complete that motion, because that motion itself is not an in-camera motion. Would that be how we are going to proceed here? I'm just wondering what happens with the motion on the table.
Is a part of this meeting, so it would be eligible to go in camera, but and a motion to refer is in order. It's a subsidiary motion to the main motion, so technically would be in order.
Okay, thanks.
Did I miss the question?
I think so.
Okay.
I think the chair or the director wants to know if we'll be coming back out of camera. 10.3.
Thank you. Through the chair. The assembly could go in camera right now if that's what they're desiring to do.
That's what he's desiring to do.
Oh.
Correct, Director Paul?
Yeah, that would actually, I think, be preferable from my point of view, because we deal with this issue and then we'd be on the same item. It would be clear, but if that's okay with the assembly, I would prefer that. But
let's check with Director Gisborne what his intentions were.
Oh, but my intention was to discuss this this policy line in camera, and then after our in-camera discussion, we can move it back out to the public session and hopefully finish it off. And if the assembly wants to go in camera right now, I think that is an option. However, looking at our agenda, we really only have the financial plan bylaws the next item, so it might be good to just knock that one out and then go all in camera together.
Yeah. Through the chair, so procedurally, you were thinking to wait till the end of the meeting as usual?
Yeah.
And then come out of camera and then go back and deal with 10.3?
Yes.
Okay.
I did see Director McCormick, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, why don't we just refer this to the in-camera meeting? And then we can finish off the public agenda with the financial plan and then go in camera and deal with it there.
Everyone okay with that? Yeah, okay. I think that's what we'll do. Yeah, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none? Great. Um, 11.1 Regional Hospital District 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan Bylaw number 135, 2026. That the board give first and second reading of the Regional Hospital District 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan Bylaw number 135, 2026.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Yeah.
Is this where I would move an amendment to the requisition from 2% to 4%? I'm seeing a nod from the CIO. Okay, I'll move.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
we can give first reading first and then consider amendments.
Okay.
So
Oh, okay.
that's appropriate.
So,
Or we can give first and second and consider amendments at that point in time. So if that's the motion that's currently on the table, I would call the question and then entertain amendments to the bylaw.
okay.
So call the question.
I'm in favor.
All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none? Carried.
And then I'll move an amendment to increase the requisition from 2% to 4% year over year.
Chair.
Second by Director Lennox.
Okay, Director Lennox, second.
Actually, Chair, I just had a question if it's appropriate to ask. I don't know whether to support this or not. I have a question. I'm not sure how to proceed.
Seconding doesn't mean you support it. You just
Yeah,
want to hear it.
I'll second. So
Thank you.
Discussion. Director Lennox.
I guess I'll ask my question. What are the financial implications of going from 2 to 4%?
CFO, Director, or screening?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, 1 minute, please, and I will find that.
Yeah. Thank you for.
Central the that's my question for the chief financial officer. Would a 4% increase apply to requisition regional? Would that also include Tla'amin, or would that be both or just one?
Thank you, Chair. So yes, it would be like a 1.8% increase on both, on each. Right, so it might not be quite 4% for Tla'amin as well, but it will. So we can look at the regional one for 4%, and then we have to allocate it based on the assessments.
Yeah, the reason I'm putting this forward is I believe the CPI is about 3%, and there's something that I was informed or told at AVICC 6-7 years ago, and it had to do with Courtney Comox's new hospital, and a lot of folks were coming up to the CVRD's board members and saying, how did you guys get a new hospital? And apparently it had very healthy reserves. And then one day the province said, we've got some money and it's coming up to campaign period. And they wanted to do some big announcement. And they looked around the province and they said, who can actually partner with us and who's ready to go? And over in Comox Valley, they went, well, we've got money. We can get building right away. And I know, what is it, $6-7 million we have in our reserves? It seems like a lot, but if you've seen some of the numbers coming out of the Lower Mainland, it's like $1.4-1.5 million a bed. That doesn't really go that far, and I don't expect the province to find any coins under the cushions right now. But this is when we want to make sure that we are putting enough money into our reserves, so that way in the future, we can get another long-term care facility, because I don't need to send anyone up to the 4th floor to see what's been going on up there. And it's concerning. I think that we can do at least the CPI, which is about 3%, and I think 1 extra percent. I don't think the public are really going to be all that mad with us if we're saying, hey, we want to put this aside to start putting it towards future projects, because healthcare is important for everyone in this community, both Tla'amin electoral areas and the city.
I did see Director Fall. Did you?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say, while I understand and have empathy for the intent of the motion, I'm not going to vote in favor. And the reason is, it's a bit last minute. I mean, we have to adopt this agenda today. It lacks transparency for the public, in my view, to make such a change. I would rather, and I do see the need for maybe building the reserves. I think it would be better to, rather than just arbitrarily fixing an increase in the tax requisition, I would rather see a plan that looks at to how we should be building the reserves over time. That could be done, started as part of some strategic planning session and so on. So I would really prefer to be looking at this over the year and be looking at what we do in the future. The 2% extra is roughly it's around $60,000. It's not that it's trivial, but that's about 1% of our total reserves. So it's not a make or break for building reserves. I think I would prefer to have a good plan for building reserves. And if that means higher requisitions in the future, I think that we can explain it to the public rather than just making a decision on the fly like this.
Okay. Is there any other questions at this time?
Thank you. I have a question. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
For the Chair. First, if this says that the qathet Regional Hospital District Financial Plan Bylaw 2026, I'll get the correct wording here. Number 135, 2026, be amended to change the requisition dash regional and requisition dash Tla'amin in Schedule A to be increased to 4%. Does that meet the requirements?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm also looking at our quick find out CFO. See if that.
But I'll just get the wording correct here. No, I think if you guys understand that, I'll just ensure that the wording is correct, that that's what you're voting on.
Ms. Greenan, do you have any other information to add?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So the change in the tax rates per 100,000 would be approximately 83 cents per 100,000. So that would be an 83 cent increase per year per $100,000 of net taxable value.
Did see Director Lennox, I believe, first, then Director McCormick.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for the information. And I actually appreciate Director Gisborne you bringing this up, and I do think it should be part of our awareness as we head towards some of these services I'm going to need one day, I hope. I think we've already realized we've asked our staff for a reserve policy. This very much would hopefully be referenced and sort of identified in there again. What's the right amounts? I'm prepared to go there, but I think that I'd like to make it part of that complete reserve approach because we have to do that in a concerted manner. So, and the other thing is, I do want to look ahead, but right now I'm getting constant phone calls and emails about the pressures our people are facing. And so 83 cents doesn't sound like much, but I want to do it with knowledge. And I want to do it with being able to talk to my residents and say, is this of value? So I think it is, but that's where I'm at now. Thanks.
Director McCormick, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm not in favor, excuse me, I'm losing my voice again, of making changes willy-nilly to things like our financial plan. This has been presented in public, on our website, and people have had an opportunity to view it, to provide comment to us if they have any, and to start changing everything at the 11th hour. I'm not saying that the changes probably aren't worth it and that it seems like a very small amount to increase our reserve, and I get that, and I'm not opposed to doing that, but I am opposed to doing it in a kind of willy-nilly one-off fashion. I want to see the reserve policy first. Yes, absolutely. And I agree with Director Fall that we should, do all of this in the proper context. So let's not just go changing things here or there. I have an idea for this or for that. Let's build them into our budget planning and into our budgets as we move forward in the future. And then we'll create a win-win situation. We'll get the good ideas and we'll do them properly, which is build them in, let the public comment, and then make our decision accordingly. So I'm not in favor of the amendment. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Director Isaacson?
Yeah, thank you. A couple things. I think I would like to I think caution the board. There's some language that veers, like using words like willy-nilly. I think while this is a last minute change, I think we veer into being a little bit disrespectful of the mover. And so while it is a last minute suggestion and maybe falls outside the lines of what good practice and public notice would be, there's other ways that we can talk about it to both to uphold our respect for one another using our language. Having said that, though, I do agree with the previous two speakers in the sense that it is I think public notice is important for last minute changes such as this, and I think it really it demonstrates the importance to consider the weight of these sorts of plans early on in the process and make changes and have policies like reserve policies in order to have really robust discussions and thoughtful plans over the long term. Given that the increase is would be quite small, I was very curious what it would pan out to be. It doesn't make or break the reserves, but I do appreciate the intention generally of having robust reserves. I think it would just be important for the board to have those discussions early on and think about the approach they want to take. And that's hard when you don't necessarily know the long-term health needs and what level of robustness should be. I agree with Councillor Gisborne in the sense that it is important to be able to act on funding opportunities that are offered from time to time, and having robust reserves would help that. I think in this case, though, the amount that it would raise is not worth it in terms of public notification and last minute changes, even though the total amount for $100,000 is not significant. I think you know, good practice is important. So I kind of went back and forth on this issue, hearing each speaker, but eventually I decided to not vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. I just wanted to mention that it would work out to $55,625 an addition. That would be the addition to the reserves, would be $55,625 to bring it to a 4% requisition increase.
From what I've recently heard, I'm just wondering if there's an appetite to refer this information to be included in the 2027 budget planning. And giving it an opportunity to breathe, but you know, having a place where everybody's sort of comfortable too.
If that is a desire, then we would consider a motion, a subsidiary motion to refer it to the 2027 budget planning. However, if that's not a desire, then we could just call the question on the motion on the table.
So see if that's a desire first.
I'll move that.
Comment moves that. Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Just a question of clarification. Is your intention, this motion here was related to this budget cycle, and so referring it to next year is about the increases in general and wanting to have healthy reserves. It's the topic as opposed to like this year's financial plan. I'm assuming your intention is. Yeah.
Yeah, because this motion is specific to the 2026 regional and common requisition allocation. So I don't think it would actually be in order to send it to next year's budget cycle, because you can't change 2026's budget cycle after today. Well, unless we have another meeting, but I don't think we can do that. So I think it's actually out of order, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I agree that it's out of order.
Yes, I agree. It's out of order. Yeah.
Do we have a ruling on that?
Yeah.
So now the motion's not on the table.
Okay. So we'll call it the original, the question. So that the regional hospital district 2026 to 2030 financial plan bylaw be amended to change requisition regional and requisition Parliament Schedule A to be increased to 40%. All in favor? Opposed? Motion.
Director McCormick, I think is.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Nay, I was opposed.
Item 2.
Item 2, that the board give third reading of the Regional Hospital District 2026-2030 Financial Plan Bylaw number 135, 2026.
So moved.
By Director Isaacson. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried. And then to number 3, that the board adopt the Regional Hospital District 2026-2030 Financial Plan Bylaw number 135, 2026.
So moved.
Gisborne, Director Isaacson seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, carried.
We have a budget.
No new business. Is there a question, the question period?
Galinsky from the Peak here, Chair. I don't have any questions. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Nobody else? Then we'll make a motion to move in camera.
I'll make the motion, but I question to the corporate officers, do we have to add in any additional clause in relation to the matter that was referred to in camera?
Excuse me.
So we would be adding labor relations and the receipt of legal advice.
Then I will move with the addition of labor relations, and I think the solicitor client privilege is already on this one. So that's I think it's labor relations is maybe C. I can't.
Yes, but
Not good. Okay, I'll move it with the addition of labor relations.
Second by Director Isaacson. All in favor? Opposed? None. Moving in camera.
I have to read it all out.
What's everyone doing it for?
They're gonna need a little bit of a,
Okay.
we'll need 5 minutes if
Sure.
you guys need 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Recording stopped.
Who are you?
The live stream.
I was like, oh, yeah. It's not good. Just confused as usual.
Yeah, same.
I saw that you guys were in the
With the.
qathet Regional District boardroom Zoom waiting. Aware of that.
Recording in progress.
Regional Hospital District Board public session. And I have a couple items to rise and report. Number one, staff provide a report regarding the definition of nuisance, hazardous substance, and permitted use in relation to the lease agreement at 4910 Joyce Avenue. And the board is continuing to pursue gathering information and communicating community concerns with parties. The second rise and report is the qathet Regional Hospital District is going to reach out to the Ministry of Health and Infrastructure with the advocacy for long-term financial planning.
We're at 10.3.
10.3. Is there any further discussion on 10.3, Director Gisborne?
Yeah, I just gonna make sure I'm correct on the main motion. This main motion was that we refer it to the qathet Regional District Board, I think, is that correct? Yeah, the one thing I want to speak to is 3.7, which is something I spoke to in the public session before we went in camera around the requirement the regional district officer must be in attendance at that specific place. Does it require an amendment to move that clause be further investigated by referring that to staff?
Thank you. So currently on the table is that we're referring this to and recommending that it be provided first through adoption. I think that with the addition of further investigation and information to be provided regarding that clause.
Okay. I think that's a motion I gotta move, right? Investigate that clause further. Okay, I'll make that motion. Right, yes, it's an amendment.
Director Lennox seconds. Questions?
Yeah, just so the public is aware, I brought up some questions at the public session before I went in camera. I still have some questions. You also heard some stuff in camera. And I think referring this clause to our staff to get some more clarity will be beneficial to the board and the staff and everyone involved. So I hope everyone supports this amendment to the main motion and then main motion.
Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Is there any opposed? Seeing none? Now on the main motion.
Any further discussion?
Further discussion? Main motion? Outstanding. All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none? Carried.
Item 10.3.2.
That the Regional Hospital Board refer and recommend the notice of motion policy to the qathet Regional District Board for adoption. Seriously, Dr. Isaacson, any discussion, questions? Gisborne?
Yeah, our procedure bylaw outlines, how folks do notices of motion. I don't actually believe that we need a notice of motion policy. I can see how it could be beneficial to some, but to kind of echo, I think what Director Lennox said previously, that it kind of just creates additional regulation for ourselves. I've looked around, I've seen some notice of motion policies in some local governments. They're not really widespread. And I think that the best way to handle notice of motions is through individual constraint around the table. And yeah, I don't think we actually need a notice of motion policy. I believe it was requested by some members of our board. So thanks to our staff for getting it written up, but I don't see the need to adopt such a policy. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions or discussions? None. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
For the sake, we might want to ask if there's any additional questions
Sure.
from the public. We've already done that, but we had further business.
Is there any other additional questions from the public? Glinski still with us?
Hearing none. Okay.
Hearing none. Aaron.
We'll need about 5 minutes to hear a 5-minute break, everyone.